How to Practice Detachment in Everyday Life. By a lifelong researcher in Buddhist philosophy. In the quiet corridors of my 4 decades of research into Buddhist thought, I have consistently encountered a single, powerful thread that weaves through the entirety of the Buddhist teachings: the principle of liberation through letting go. This principle finds its most potent expression in the practice of detachment. To the modern ear, particularly in a culture that champions passionate engagement and the vigorous pursuit of goals, detachment can sound cold, aloof, even nihilistic. It might conjure images of an unfeeling ascetic, indifferent to the joys and sorrows of the world. Yet, this is a profound misunderstanding of one of the most compassionate and life-affirming skills one can cultivate. True Buddhist detachment, known in Pali as nekkhamma, renunciation or letting go, and closely related to upekkha, equanimity, is not about disengaging from life. On the contrary, it is about engaging with life more fully, more freely, and with a depth of wisdom that is impossible when our minds are shackled by attachment. It is the art of participating in the dance of life without being desperately chained to the outcome. It is the wisdom to love without clinging, to strive without anxiety, and to experience both pleasure and pain without being overthrown by them. This is not a theoretical ideal reserved for monastics in remote monasteries. It is a practical, trainable skill that can be woven into the very fabric of our messy, beautiful, and complicated modern lives. The practice of detachment is the direct path to alleviating the stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction, dukkha, that stems from our constant grasping and aversion. This article is not a simple list of tips and tricks. It is a deep dive into the philosophy and, more importantly, the practical methodology of detachment. We will explore what attachment is, why it causes suffering, and how, step by step, we can cultivate the liberating skill of letting go in our relationships, our careers, our thoughts, and our perception of self, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and resilient heart. The anatomy of attachment. Why do we cling? Before we can practice letting go, we must first understand the nature of the fist that clings. In Buddhist psychology, the root of our attachment is upadana, a Pali word that literally means fuel or clinging. It is the mental act of grasping onto experiences, ideas, people, and things, fueled by the deeper fire of tanha, or thirst. This thirst is threefold: the thirst for sensual pleasures, the thirst for existence and becoming, and the thirst for non-existence. This grasping is not a personal failing, it is a deeply ingrained survival mechanism. A fundamental aspect of the unenlightened human condition. We cling because, on a deep, often unconscious level, we believe that these external things, possessions, relationships, status, even our own opinions, will provide us with lasting security, happiness, and a solid sense of identity. The tragic irony, as the Buddha pointed out, is that the very act of clinging is the direct cause of our suffering. Why? Because the world we are clinging to is, by its very nature, impermanent, anicca. Everything changes, possessions break, relationships evolve or end, our bodies age, pleasant feelings fade, and even our most cherished beliefs are subject to revision. When we attach our sense of well-being to something that is inherently unstable, we are setting ourselves up for inevitable disappointment, anxiety, and grief. It is like building our house on a shifting sand dune. Furthermore, our clinging is predicated on a fundamental delusion about who we are. We grasp onto things to solidify a sense of a permanent, independent self, atta. We think, this is my car, this is my partner, this is my reputation, and in doing so, we construct a fragile ego identity. The Buddha's teaching of non-self, anatta, reveals that this solid self is an illusion. Like everything else, we are a dynamic, interdependent process, a flowing river of thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations, not a static statue. Attachment is the futile attempt to freeze this river, to hold onto a single wave, and in doing so, we create immense internal friction and suffering. Detachment, then, is the courageous and wise act of loosening our grip. It is the recognition that our true well-being does not depend on controlling the uncontrollable or holding onto the impermanent. It is the discovery of a deeper, more stable source of peace that lies within, the foundation of practice, mindfulness, the watchful friend, The entire edifice of detachment rests upon one foundational pillar: mindfulness, sati. Mindfulness is the gentle, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. It is the practice of observing our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations as they arise and pass away, without getting entangled in them. Without mindfulness, we are on autopilot, driven by the habitual currents of grasping and aversion. We don't even realize we are clinging until we are already suffering. Mindfulness acts like a watchful and compassionate friend sitting inside our minds. When the feeling of attachment arises, that tightening in the chest when a desired outcome is threatened, that surge of possessiveness in a relationship, that anxious grip on a particular belief, mindfulness notices it. It simply says, here is the feeling of clinging. I see you. This simple act of noticing is profoundly transformative. It creates a space between the impulse to cling and our reaction to it. In that space lies our freedom. Instead of being a slave to the habit of attachment, we gain the power to choose. We can observe the feeling of clinging without needing to act on it. We can watch it arise, feel its texture, and see it, like all other mental states, eventually pass away. How do you practice this? Formal sitting meditation. Dedicate 10 to 20 minutes each day to sit quietly and focus on your breath. When your mind wanders, which it will, gently and without judgment, guide it back to the breath. This is the basic training for strengthening the muscle of attention. Mindfulness in daily activities. Bring this quality of awareness to everyday actions. When you drink your morning coffee, just drink the coffee. Feel the warmth of the mug. Taste the flavor. Smell the aroma. When you are walking, feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. By anchoring your attention in the present, you are less likely to be swept away by the mental tides of craving for the future or regret for the past. Mindfulness is the essential diagnostic tool. It illuminates the inner workings of our attachments, showing us exactly where and how we are holding on too tightly. It is the first and most crucial step on the path to letting go. Practical arenas for detachment. Weaving the practice into life. Once the foundation of mindfulness is laid, we can begin to apply the wisdom of detachment to the specific areas of our lives where clinging causes the most distress. 1. Detaching from material possessions. The joy of simplicity. We live in a world that equates happiness with acquisition. We are constantly told that the next purchase, the new phone, the better car, the bigger house, will finally make us content. The practice of detachment from material things is not about embracing poverty or denying ourselves comfort. It is about breaking the psychological link between possessions and happiness. Contemplate impermanence. Look at your most cherished possession. Reflect on the fact that it came from raw materials and will one day break, become obsolete, or turn to dust. You do not truly own it. You are merely its temporary custodian. Doing this regularly weakens the emotional charge of ownership. Practice generosity. Dana. The act of giving is a powerful antidote to grasping. Make it a regular practice to give away things you no longer need. When you give, pay attention to the feeling of letting go. Notice the sense of lightness and connection it can bring, which is often far more satisfying than the fleeting pleasure of acquiring. Question your impulses. The next time you feel a strong urge to buy something, pause. Use your mindfulness to investigate the feeling. What is driving this desire? Is it a genuine need? Or is it a desire to distract yourself, to boost your ego, or to alleviate a feeling of emptiness? Often, simply seeing the impulse for what it is can cause it to dissolve. Cultivate gratitude for what you have. Attachment often focuses on what we lack. Shift your focus by regularly making a mental or written list of the things you are grateful for right now. This moves the mind from a state of scarcity to one of abundance, without needing to acquire anything new. 2. Detaching from outcomes. The freedom of the process. So much of our anxiety stems from being rigidly attached to specific outcomes. We want the project to succeed. We want the interview to go perfectly. We want the vacation to be flawless. When we are attached to the result, we are constantly living in a state of fear and tension about the future. Shift your goal from product to process. Whatever you are doing, bring your full attention to the act of doing it. If you are writing a report, focus on crafting each sentence with care. If you are training for a race, focus on the feeling of each footstep on the pavement. Pour your effort into the process, and let the outcome take care of itself. The great archer. In the Zen tradition, becomes one with the arrow, the bow, and the target. The focus is on the perfection of the form, not on the desperate need to hit the bullseye. Practice what if scenarios gently and mindfully. Ask yourself, what if this doesn't work out? What if I don't get what I want? Play out the scenario in your mind. You will often discover that the imagined catastrophe is far worse than the likely reality. You will see that you have the inner resources to handle disappointment. This practice builds resilience and loosens the fearful grip of expectation. Embrace beginner's mind. Approach tasks without the burden of your own expertise or expectations. A beginner's mind is open, curious, and free from the need to prove anything. This allows for greater creativity and joy in the work itself, regardless of the end result. 3. Detaching in relationships. Loving without chains. This is perhaps the most challenging and misunderstood area of detachment. Detachment in relationships does not mean being cold, uncaring, or unloving. In fact, it is the highest and purest form of love, a love that is free from the poison of possessiveness, control, and selfish need. Love the person, not your idea of them. We often fall in love not with a person, but with our own projection of who they are or who we want them to be. Practice seeing your loved ones for who they truly are in this moment, with all their strengths and imperfections. Let go of the need for them to fit your mold. Distinguish between love and attachment. The great Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh taught that true love must contain 4 elements: loving kindness, metta; compassion, karuna; joy, mudita; and equanimity, upekkha. Attachment, on the other hand, is characterized by fear, anxiety, jealousy, and the desire to control. Ask yourself, is my feeling for this person expanding my heart? Or is it contracting it with fear? Respect their freedom. The ultimate act of love is to want the best for another person, even if that doesn't include you. Clinging seeks to possess and control. Love seeks to liberate. Meditate on the wish for your loved ones to be happy and free, and recognize that you cannot, and should not, control their path. Practice compassionate detachment with difficult people. When dealing with someone who causes you pain, detachment means not allowing their negativity to contaminate your own mind. You can maintain a compassionate heart, wishing for them to be free from the suffering that causes them to act harmfully, while simultaneously setting healthy boundaries to protect your own well-being. You let go of the need to change them and the angry attachment to how they should be. 4. Detaching from thoughts and emotions. You are the sky, not the clouds. We tend to believe that we are our thoughts and emotions. When an angry thought arises, we say, I am angry. When a sad feeling comes, we say, I am sad. This identification is a form of attachment that gives these fleeting mental events immense power over us. Label your thoughts. When a thought arises, instead of getting caught in its storyline, simply label it, a planning thought, a worrying thought, a memory. This simple act of labeling creates a distance, transforming you from a participant in the thought to an observer of it. Use the analogy of the sky. Visualize your awareness as a vast, open, and clear sky. Your thoughts and emotions are like clouds passing through. Some are dark and stormy, others are light and puffy. But no matter what the clouds are doing, they never harm or stain the sky. The sky simply allows them to be there and to pass in their own time. Your true nature is this sky-like awareness, not the passing clouds. Create a worry time if you are plagued by anxious thoughts. Set aside a specific, limited time each day, e.g. 15 minutes at 5 p.m., to intentionally worry. When anxious thoughts arise outside of this time, gently acknowledge them and tell them, I will give you my full attention at 5 p.m. Often, by the time your appointment arrives, the thoughts will have lost much of their charge. This practice helps you detach from the immediacy and urgency of anxious thinking. 5. Detaching from the self, the ultimate liberation. The deepest attachment of all is to our own story, our identity, our ego. We cling to our roles: parent, professional, artist, our achievements, our failures, and our opinions about ourselves. This constructed self is the root of our insecurity, our pride, and our fear of criticism. Contemplate the non-self, anatta. Regularly reflect on the fact that every part of you is in constant flux. Your body is changing with every breath. Your feelings and thoughts are a ceaseless parade. Where is the permanent, unchanging you in all of this? This is not a morbid exercise, it's a liberating one. It loosens the tight grip of the ego. Let go of the need for approval. Notice how much of your daily activity is driven by a desire for praise and a fear of blame. Practice doing good things quietly, without needing recognition. When you are criticized, use mindfulness to observe the feeling of being stung, without immediately defending the ego. See if you can find the kernel of truth in the criticism and let the rest go. Practice humility. Actively look for opportunities to learn from others. Acknowledge when you don't know something. Humility is the graceful acceptance of our own limitations, and it is a powerful solvent for the hardened shell of the ego. The culmination, upekkha, the jewel of equanimity. As the practice of detachment deepens, it blossoms into the sublime quality of equanimity, upekkha. Equanimity is the unshakable balance of mind. It is the ability to meet all of life's vicissitudes, the famous 8 worldly winds of pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute, with an even, stable, and peaceful heart. This is not indifference. The indifferent person has shut down their feelings. The person with equanimity feels everything fully, but is not knocked off balance by it. They experience the pain of loss, but are not consumed by despair. They experience the pleasure of success, but are not inflated by pride or addicted to the feeling. Their well-being is no longer dependent on the ever-changing conditions of the external world. They have found that island in the flood that the Buddha spoke of, a refuge within themselves that is safe, secure, and truly free. Conclusion. The warmth of an open hand. The path of detachment is a lifelong journey, not a final destination. It is a practice of moment-to-moment awareness, a gradual and gentle loosening of our habitual grip on a world that was never ours to hold. It requires patience, courage, and a deep well of compassion for ourselves as we stumble and learn. To practice detachment is to transform the clenched fist of fear and desire into the open hand of wisdom and love. An open hand can give freely and receive graciously. It can feel the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the rain. It can hold things lightly, appreciating them for as long as they are there, and letting them go without resistance when it is time for them to leave. This is the profound freedom that the Buddha offered. It is not a cold emptiness, but the warm, radiant, and unshakable peace of a heart that has finally come home to rest in the nature of reality itself.